Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly of Business. I'm your host, Catryn Becker. On this podcast, we believe that while a smart man learns from his mistakes, a genius learns from others. And in that vein, we talk to people from all different industries, all different professions, all different walks of life, because we want to learn what they have learned and what has made them successful in business so that we can either avoid the mistakes they've made completely or we can either fail faster. So today's episode is going to be like a master class because the guest I have today has done so much in his 70 plus years on this planet and has really seen it all and has the best and most positive outlook on life that I've ever witnessed. So, Gib Stewart, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Catryn.
So,
Thank you.
absolutely. I mean, so we were talking before I started the recording and you were just saying such amazing stuff that I was like, hold on, we just got to start and just talk because I don't want to miss any of these amazing gems that you're doing. So can you please give us, and I know briefly is going to be hard because you've done so much, but just the high level overview of what has brought you to this point in life.
Well, we probably need to start when I got out of the military and couldn't find a job.
Which is a very common tale, right? I mean,
oh yes,
it still happens
because
to this
everybody
day.
was getting out at just at the same time I was getting out. So they were flooding the job market. At any rate, so then let's see, I got my first job and ended up with an emotional breakdown that probably haunted me for probably close to 40 years. But that's okay. It was really tough at the beginning. I had to swim every day. I had to make sure I was walking. I could not walk, talk, and chew gum at the same time. I mean, I was in really bad shape. I was doing lending in downtown San Francisco. And there were many days when I never saw the sun. And I pushed myself over the edge. I always wanted to be successful, right? So sometimes you're stupid when you're trying to be successful. At any rate, okay, so that happened. And then I went to work for the government. I worked for the government 14 years full time and 7.5 years half time. I wanted to retire at 49 years, 364 days, but my boss asked me to stay for an extra 6 months. She said, "I can't replace you." I said, okay. That's a pretty nice thing for somebody to say to you. And she had been wonderful. She had let me stay half time for 7.5 years. She could have written me full time or off the books. Either one. Time, right? Every 2 years, she had a shot at me. At any rate, so I stayed the extra 6 months. I retired. That lasted. At that time, we had grown to $1 million. Okay, $1 million. That sounds pretty cool. I like this. Let's quit. So that lasted about 3 months. And then a friend of mine who was a dentist, he just retired. He said, "You've been in real estate." By then it had been 15, 17 years at the time, I think. He said, "You've been in real estate for 17 years. I need some space because my office is getting too crowded." So I went out and looked. In those days, people didn't like dentists in general areas because the smells were too big. Most of the people watching this podcast are not going to realize how stinky dental offices used to be. I mean, it was horrible. So
I am like shocked by this revelation.
Yeah, landlords wouldn't take them. At any rate, so we kept getting turned down. And then he said, "Well, why don't we buy a lot and have somebody build one for us?" So I think I sold a small something and put it in, and we bought the first lot and went out and interviewed 3 developers. And on the way back to his office, he said, "I think I want you to do this. You develop it." I said, "Me?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You've negotiated contracts with attorneys. You've been the chief bean counter for northeastern part of the state." He says, "You're going to do this. You're going to be fine." I said, "Well, if we choose one of these guys to be our backup in case I'm a failure." At any rate, I wasn't. At any rate, we hit a home run. That's still a home run today. What would this be? 26 years later, it's still a home run. And along the way, we went out to breakfast with a friend of his, and the guy said to me, she says, what you want to do is you want to try and hit a home run the first time, and then you can do bunt singles and triples and a couple of doubles. Said you're going to be fine. Well, we didn't realize we were hitting a home run, but it became obvious pretty quickly. So then that started, and did that for a number of years. And then another guy came to me and said, you got to build more of those dental offices. So we went out to, you're not going to believe this. We each took $2,500, 5 people, threw it in a pot.
Okay.
Out of that $12,500, the end game was 50 million.
Wow.
Okay. A lot of hardship along the way. Lots of hardship. Okay.
Wow.
The original ownership, the CPA had been my roommate in the Army. Okay. And he flew out from Florida and he looked at the project and he said, Stu, somebody's going to get greedy and you're going to be in trouble and this is going to fail. I'll leave my money in, so keep my $2,500 because I know you're counting on it. And he flew back to Florida. He and I are still friends. We talk. We get together every other year. So anyway, so he's gone. So then we got just about 55% finished with the project. And one of the partners raises his hand and says, we don't think you're working hard enough. We want to bring this other guy in and we want you to give him half your share. Well, I didn't take that very nicely.
Who would?
So we basically shut the project down for almost 2 years, arguing about which one. There were 2 of them and 2 of us left. We only had 4, right?
Yeah.
2 and so at almost the 2-year point, the guy that brought it up had a heart attack on a golf course. He survived, but he had a heart attack. That's a wake up.
Yeah,
and
that changes a lot.
Like 3 weeks later, the other one on that side, his wife filed for divorce. So they finally took our offer. We would give them offers to buy or sell. Here's a price, I'll buy or sell. And they'd come back like 6 weeks later and say, here's a price. And we'd say, well, was that the buy price or the sell price? They said, well, that's only if you buy it. Okay, never mind. At any rate, so that was fun. At any rate, we got through that project and it ended up being worth 50 million. So all of a sudden I was worth a lot more than 2 million. I went from 1 to 2 to 30. So then my ex-wife has been doing all the books. She still does to this day.
Oh my.
That tells you how good friends we are.
Yeah.
At any rate, so she came to me and she said, I can't take this anymore. And she said, let's just separate for a while. It's probably over. And about a year and a half later, she said, I think just to make things real clear, I should file for divorce. Is that all right with you? I said, if that's what you want. I told you I'd get everything for you I could. So we split everything down the middle. So I ended up with 15 and she ended up with 15. And we meet tomorrow. And we have two mandatory annual meetings tomorrow. So I'll find out more about how things are going for her. But my 15 is now grown to 18 because I've tried a couple of different things. About 6 months after she decided it was really over, I was having lunch with a young man who had been following me every quarter, every 3 months for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
To be able to get on the roof of our commercial buildings. We had 8 commercial buildings by then. And he wanted to do the heating and ventilation. And when he got through and I gave him all the information I knew and how to get the rest, I said to him, what are you going to do with your life? He says, well, I've been the top salesman in this area for 3 of the last 4 years. And I said, well, but what do you really want to do? Because, I mean, can you believe somebody can follow you that many times, right?
That is significant persistence.
Right, exactly. Oh, really? Totally. Um, he said, well, I'd really like to own my own heating and ventilation. I said, what's keeping you? He said, nobody has any money. I said, well, okay, we now have $100,000. Let's go out and buy one. So the first one was too big. The second and third one were mom and pops, just single technician, and the fourth one was 400,000 in annual income, and three technicians, including the owner and office staff and half-time bookkeeper. So we bought it, and we made the terms, $100,000 down and 300 over time, and he started operating it. And last year he hit, after 5.5 years, hit $3.5 million.
Wow.
400,000, 3.5. Nice. And he started to buy me out last January because he always wanted to. And we had already made provisions for that. And we knew how we were going to do it. And so he bought, I think I'm down, instead of 51%, I think I'm at 35%.
Wow. I have to ask a question there because, there's all different levels of people who listen to this. And, to the person who's got a small business or has these big dreams, I think persistence is such a key. Like, would you have invested with him had he not?
Oh, no. But okay, so here's the real slammer for you. Okay, so he and I buy this business, and then my firstborn comes back to me and she says, Dad, do you realize he's an ex-convict, a felon? So, oh, really? Okay. So, luckily, he told me about a week ahead. Heck of, but and I have tried to get him to apply for a pardon for probably 3 years now. He just should. He should have never been convicted. I mean,
yeah.
I know the case. I've studied it. I've studied the background. I think if he was still allowed to file against his attorney, he should do that, but he can't. Okay, but you still can write up a pardon paper and say,
present the information.
I've been a good person.
Yeah,
and I should have never been convicted in the first place. So that's that story, and then so he and his wife both feel like I've empowered them to both be millionaires on their own right, each of them.
Yeah.
So that's that. And then I tried a newspaper because Palm Springs, California has a really successful entertainment newspaper. I was supposed to have my first profitable.
Exactly. Yes.
March of 2020. And COVID hit.
Sure.
Everything on my piece of paper said I finally, after 2.5 years of working on this, it's going to be and people started calling and canceling their ads. So by May, I shut it down. I paid back all the people that had paid for their ads in advance, and I left it. And because I couldn't build it again for another 3 years, I just couldn't dig it out. And I would say 70% of the people had canceled their ads going forward. And who knew how long COVID was going to last?
Right. Right.
I wasn't going to pay everything that needed to be paid. So I let that one go. So then what happened? Oh, so my latest is so I wrote my book.
Yes, your book.
My kids have been wanting me to write my book for years and years. Dad, how did you get from $288 to $30 million? This doesn't make sense. Well, okay, so I wrote the book, Learn, Apply, and Grow Rich. And within a couple of months, I had 3 different people from 3 different outlooks call me, write me, write me a letter, and say, read your book, really liked it, think it should be a movie. Well, kind of a curious guy. I still realized I still had a significant part of the management of the, I think we had 18 properties then. So I'm busy, but I
Yeah.
still have time to write a book. And I wrote the book. That's what happened. And they said that. And a couple months later, there was a lull for me work-wise. So I got on the internet and went to Upwork, which is one of the two major internet sites where you go and you put your name in and tell what you're looking for. And there's 3,000 people looking for work. Okay?
Yeah.
So I wrote in script writer because you got to start somewhere. I didn't have any idea where to start in the entertainment business. At any rate, 27 people replied to be my script writer. Some of them were totally unqualified, but 3 of them had already produced movies. Okay, so one's from, am I going too long?
No, I am just like, this is not even an interview. This is just me like wrapped listening to these stories.
So the first one I called, got a hold of, and we actually talked, was from South Africa. And he and I had very different ideas from what I wanted to do. I just said, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for applying. Not interested. Next one I got a hold of was from London, and had a great conversation with him. And if I end up producing this, and you'll see how I think that could happen 20 years from now. But if I do, if the producer or producers say, we don't have a script writer, why don't you find one? I'm going to hire the guy in London. He and I he focused right in on what I want. So then the third one was a guy named Matt Cubberly, Cubberly. And Matt had helped a child and family focused production company from 2 million to 28 million. He was the creative director for this organization.
Yeah.
So when it hit 28 million, the person on top said, 28's enough for me. We're closing. We're selling this for 28 million. And then Matt got his 2% for having done all this work. But he asked, you're not going to use these 18 properties that I'm currently working on. So do you mind if I take them with me? And he got a sign off on them.
Wow.
And he was waiting for, he told me at the time, he said, in 10 days, I have an appointment with like a well-known National Football League halfback. And I recognized the name. And I told him, I said, I'll buy 12.5% right now, right here. All you have to do is say yes. And he said, let me think about it. So in about 11 days, he called me back and he said, I'll take it. So that's where we got. So now we have a third, we have 37% of this 5-year program to get from here well beyond where we think we're going. And so we're selling the extra 37% for as little as $25,000 a pop, or for 5%, 1.1 million. And attorney yesterday told me I couldn't do it. It's okay.
And here you are from yesterday. I mean, it's just amazing, your outlook. Like, it feels like you could have been in any industry and would have been successful.
Right time, right place. Yeah.
But do you think there's like what do you think your top characteristics are that make you so successful, and how could someone listening help to develop those skills and characteristics?
Well, first of all, you have to decide that most people are pretty darn good. Most people are positive to work with, and they work real hard with you and for you. And that's one thing. But the underlying most important thing is, if you really want something, you got to be persistent. Number one, persistent. And I've been fortunate. I mean, I interviewed when I was working for the state, I interviewed for seven straight jobs. I got them. So I must do something more than I think I do, right? Because I would have never thought that happened. And then after I hit that, I was in the top 3% of state government. And then I got fired because I opened my mouth at the wrong time. Fine, that's part of the game. And so I went back into the middle of state government. And that's when I decided, I'm not putting my life into this full time. Where's a half-time job that I can find? And I got that, and it was very enjoyable. Worked half-time, was able to spend a lot of time with my kids and continue building my real estate. And it all worked out.
So was real estate ever the focus, or was it always just something you did in your spare time?
Well, I always wanted to be a millionaire. I mean, since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I remember when I was young, people would sell 1 or 2% of the New York Yankees or the Detroit Tigers or some football team, the Cleveland Browns comes to mind. And I always wondered, geez, could I ever buy 1 or 2%? And so at that point, I always wanted to be a millionaire, right? Because in those days, being a millionaire was really something.
I mean, I think it is still pretty something special.
Yeah. Well, so in 77, we had a net worth of $288. And Bonnie, my ex-wife, was nice enough to say, yeah, okay, that's reasonable. We'll go do it. And went along, and we went out, and a bunch of friends I cannot believe this, but I had a lot of friends that believed in me, right? And so they loaned me anywhere from $1,500 to, I think the top one was $3,500. So I had 5 friends that would all do that. Unbelievable. Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, I think I'm that honorable. I think I'd pay you back even if I went bankrupt, but nothing to test, right? So then we took a second mortgage out on our house. And, well, we started in 70. So by 77, we had a bigger net worth. We could take $10,000 to equity out of our house. So you got to understand where both of these things are. Start at $288, save your money, blah, 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 blah. Go 5 years, end up with $10,000, put it all in the stock market. Great stockbroker goes out and goes to work for University of California to manage their funds. So I lose him. New guy comes in. New guy drives it to zero. Zero, 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 zero. From 10,000 to zero, right?
Ouch.
Yeah, I hurt. So then we did it again. The next 5 years, we accumulated another $10,000. And we were able to buy a house. We had enough equity that we could get the loan. We took the second mortgage out. The 5 people loaned us $18,000, and we bought our first property. 5 days later, we get a notice that our first payment's due.
Okay.
No money to be found anywhere.
Oh no.
So I took the city bus over and walked down to their office and walked in and talked to Chuck Lewis. And Chuck Lewis says, I hear you have an issue. I said, yeah, I kind of do. I thought I was going to have to be able to collect the first month's rents to pay you. And I can't pay you. The bottom line is I can't pay you. He said, why don't we just take this payment and put it on the end of the contract? So here's another person that just loaned me $1,800, if I remember right. It might have been $2,000. Another person just loaned me $2,000. So I was in business. And from then on, things just kept happening.
Oh my gosh. I also think it's really interesting on you've kind of tried to retire like twice. It just
Correct.
doesn't seem
Yeah.
to stick.
I tried at 50 and at 67. Just didn't work. I, I will probably pass away right there. I don't know. I'm hoping for 20 more years because I think in 20 years I'll be a billionaire.
That would be amazing.
Well, okay. So if you look at DreamWorks, which is Spielberg and company,
Yeah.
they went from like 10 million to 40 million. Okay. So we already have 7 million. We're going to be at 14 million before we start. I think Matt Cubberly is going to drive this thing to be worth 10, 12 billion. I own 12%. Ta-da.
Wow. Well, okay. So thinking of your book and its movie adaptation, can you give a summary to let people know kind of what the direction of that looks like? I mean, is it basically
it's just the story my kids wanted to read.
okay?
Where did you start? When was your net worth $288? It was January of 71. Okay, that's when it started. We got married late December 5th. January, for some reason, I decided I needed to do a year-end net worth statement. She brought the assets. I brought all the debt. I was a newly minted second lieutenant in the United States Army. And what do? You go out and buy a car. So I brought all the debt. And so our net worth was $288.
Wow. Wow. It's an incredible story. And, typically I keep these podcasts to around 30 minutes, which we are coming up to. And I feel like there's so much more that I would love to be able to talk to you about because it's so inspiring. And, you talk a little bit about the bad and the ugly in terms of, the relationship piece. But what do you think is the one biggest, or do you even have any regrets? Like, is there anything that you look back on and you wish you had done differently?
I wish I wouldn't have gotten sick. I mean, that really did haunt me for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
So that's just, but I kept getting better and better and better. Anytime. Okay. And so the biggest issue was I couldn't handle paperwork. Okay. Just couldn't handle it. So every time I throw something away today, just like, oh, it's in my hands, I'm going to throw it away. I mean, that's like, I celebrate. I can do that. And that's literally how bad it got. Okay. So I have like 3 boxes upstairs that is full of old contracts and plans for different projects that I put together and paperwork on it. And I'm starting through it. It's like, okay, I can do this. Something that simple. It's horrible.
Wow.
So,
wow. And I know you're working on a second book. Is that correct?
I am.
Are you able to give us a sneak peek on that one?
Well, what I wanted to title it was The Road to 1 Billion, because I really do believe I'm going to be worth $1 billion. I've got 4 projects started. Okay. So I have the movie production studio, which I think is the key. I think that's going to make it. Okay. So then I'm in with 2 guys, one of them being the kid that I made a millionaire with the heating and ventilation company. And then a friend of his that he kept telling me was brilliant. Well, I think the friend is brilliant. I met him one afternoon, and he and I were, the 3 of us were going out to buy a business for him to run, the brilliant one. And I sat there with him for about 10 minutes, and I said, this guy's really got it. I just have to figure out how to make this work. So the brilliant one is running it. Well, the HVAC person's running his, and I'm here. I'm down to 35% on the HVAC systems, but it's paying me a lot of cash, so I'm kind of really comfortable with that. And we went out and we bought this other business at a significant discount. I don't know really why the kid wanted to sell it, other than I think he was just tired of running it. So at any rate, So the brilliant guys running that, we're expanding left and right, but it's all off of cash flow. I haven't had to put anything else into it yet. It's been a year, so I'm good. So we're going to buy. Our goal in the beginning was to buy a business a quarter, every quarter, right? And we got hung up on the first one, which is fine because you got to learn somewhere.
Sure.
And it, like I say, it's booming. So we were talking on the phone 3 days ago, saying, okay, we're just about ready to buy our second. So if we start buying a business a quarter, every quarter for the next 20 years, you can see how that adds up in net worth.
Quickly.
And the third one, I live in a condo in Palm Springs during the winters.
Mm-hmm.
And a new person bought the condo underneath me. And then the one above me just sold them the last month or two. But I'm there. I don't move very much. So I went down and met the guy downstairs. And I'll tell you, it was like two people just going together like this. It's so fun. I mean, literally, when you can feel that kind of kinship in 15 minutes, it's beyond me, right?
Yeah.
So he and I really started talking. And I said, okay, I got these 4 ideas that I think can really make us a lot of money. Because I've got 38. So we both signed non-disclosure agreements for each other.
Yeah.
And mine aren't too much closer because I've been pretty busy. But he and I have already developed 2. And we're going to try and develop, like, I keep pushing him to 1 a month because he's smart. He is totally smart. What disrupted this whole damn thing was that, excuse me, I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say that.
That's okay.
He had been running the IT section for a small company. The parent company took him in and said, you're going to get this new title, all this new money, and you're going to run the IT for all of our companies. So that disrupted doing 1 a month, which is what we were going to do. And
yeah. His bandwidth all of a sudden went to nothing.
Went to nothing, literally.
Literally.
Like getting a hold of him, I need to stand in line. So I just send him a text message, call me when you're between calls or whatever. But yeah, I mean, seriously, he went from this relatively small portion of the whole thing. The parent company saw him, said, you're smart, come on in. And he's doing it for all the companies. He's on the road. He's single, luckily for him, I think, or for whoever he would be with. He's on the road all the time. And that kind of undercut it. But I know he's still interested because he became part of this movie production studio with me.
Yeah.
So got somebody here. Actually, here's what happened on that. Just you got a minute for this?
Yeah, we're okay. I still have a few more minutes.
Okay, so about 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm talking to the HVAC guy, and I mentioned that I bought part of the movie studio and we need to find people. And he says, well, I'm interested. Okay, wrote his name down. And I said, okay, now I'm on the bubble. So I made like 12 phone calls during the day. Last one was at 11 p.m. And 10 of the 12 people signed up. So I got all of them came in at the lowest level you can think of, $25,000. But they're going to give me $2,500, right? And then they're going to give me $744 for I think 30 months. I don't know what the number is. I have to look at it.
Well, I love so much that you
10 out of 12.
I love that you started talking about how you were raising capital, in the early days for 2,500, and now it's for 25,000.
Yep.
You just add zeros.
Yeah.
Just like how you're going to get to $1 billion. You're just going to add some zeros.
Okay, so a billionaire has 2 more zeros than I do.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's keep going.
That's exactly.
It's too much fun.
Right?
It's too much. It's just like this. This has been a joy talking with you.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I am just utterly fascinated, and even more reason for me to take a trip out to California so we can meet in person.
That would be great.
Well, with all of the things that you have going on and the many different avenues, what's the best way for someone to work with you, or who are you looking to be connected with?
Well, I'll be connected with anyone if I can help them. Or they can help me, or they probably know somebody that can. Right. So my email address is easiest to deal with is continueforward@live.com.
Oh, that's great.
Just continue forward, both words neck to neck at live.com.
That's beautiful. And I will make sure that I put this into the show notes as well for people to reach out, because there's so many different amazing opportunities and possibilities, and your outlook and enthusiasm for life is just it's so contagious, and I just love it.
But when somebody tells you you only have 6 months to live, that's an eye opener.
I bet.
I'm just short of 5 years now. So,
well, we are all grateful for that. And I know you more than anyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Gib, thank you so very much for your time and your energy and your stories and the inspiration, because really anything is possible.
There's no doubt in my mind. Anybody. No, especially when I was sick and still growing, said, if I can do this, anybody can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to have a good bookkeeper.
Important, right? Well, thank you again so much. And to the listeners, thank you so much for being here. I hope you were able to get so much out of this. I know I didn't ask very many questions in this episode, and it's mostly because it was just such a joy to be along for the journey. And I was lucky to be here live for it. So if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe with your audience. And until next time, everyone, have a great day.